Hi everyone, welcome to English Anytime. Today we will explore the formation and development of the world's most developed country, a place where anyone on earth would love to visit, which is the United States. The United States of America is a country that many people know and talk about, is known for its freedom, its strong economy, and its influence on the world. However, the story of America began long before it became the nation it is today. In this text, we will look at the early days of the land, the arrival of people from other lands, the fight for independence, and the slow growth of a new nation. We will also explore how the country has grown and changed over time into a modern nation. This story is told in simple words and clear language so that anyone can understand how America was formed and how it developed. We start our journey by looking at the people who lived on this land long before the arrival of Europeans. Then, we will learn about the explorers and settlers who came from Europe. We will see how life in the colonies was hard but full of hope. Later, we will explain how disagreements with the ruling power led to a fight for freedom. Finally, we will follow the growth of a new nation that became a world leader. Each part of this story is connected to the next, and together they form the long history of the United States. Chapter 1: The Land and Its Early People. Before any ships came from across the ocean, the land we now call America was home to many native peoples. These people lived here for thousands of years. They had their own languages, traditions, and ways to live in close contact with nature. Their lives were simple and based on the land, the water, and the plants around them. The native peoples lived in many different parts of the country. In the forests of the Northeast, small groups built villages and grew crops like corn, beans, and squash. In the open plains, tribes followed the herds of bison and used every part of the animal for food, clothing, and tools. In the deserts of the Southwest, people learned how to save water and use the little that the land offered. They all respected the land and believed it was a gift that must be cared for. For these native groups, life was about community and family. They held meetings to make decisions, taught their children through stories, and passed their traditions from one generation to the next. Their knowledge of nature and the seasons was deep and practical. This early way of life shows us that America was once a place of many cultures and deep respect for the earth. Even though many changes would come later, the traditions and values of the native peoples have helped shape the ideas of respect, community, and care for nature that are still important today. Chapter 2: The Age of Exploration and Early Contact. In the late 1400s and early 1500s, European explorers began to sail across the Atlantic Ocean. They were looking for new lands, new trade routes, and sometimes new riches. Explorers from countries like Spain, Portugal, France, and England started to visit the lands of the New World. One of the most famous explorers was Christopher Columbus. In 1492, He landed on islands in the Caribbean. His journey showed that there was a new world beyond Europe. Soon, many other explorers followed his example. They were curious about the land, its people, and its natural resources. When these explorers first came to America, they met the native peoples. The native people were often friendly and curious about these strange visitors. However, the meeting of two very different worlds was not always peaceful. The Europeans brought with them ideas of property and trade that were very different from those of the native peoples. They also brought diseases that spread quickly among the native communities. Despite these difficulties, the early contact between Europeans and natives changed the course of history. The Europeans began to build small settlements along the coasts, and soon, more people started to come from Europe. This period of exploration laid the foundation for the many changes that were about to come to the land. Chapter 3: Life in the Colonies. In the early 1600s, many people from Europe began to settle on the east coast of America. These people came for many reasons. Some left their homes to escape religious persecution, while others were looking for a better life and more opportunities. The first permanent English settlement was made in Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607. Life in these early colonies was very hard. The settlers had to learn how to live in a new and unfamiliar land. They built small homes from the trees around them and worked hard on farms to grow their food. The early settlers faced many challenges. They did not know the best ways to grow crops in the new soil. They faced harsh weather, and they sometimes had conflicts with the native peoples. Even with these challenges, the settlers slowly built a life for themselves. They formed small communities where everyone helped each other. Neighbors shared food, tools, and knowledge. Life was simple, and people lived closely with nature. They relied on each other to get through the hard times. The people in the colonies also started to form ideas about how they wanted to be governed. Even though they were still under the rule of European kings and queens, they began to imagine a life where they could make their own rules and decisions. They met in small groups, discussed problems, and started to feel that they deserved a voice in the decisions that affected their daily lives. This sense of self-reliance and community laid the first stone in the building of a new nation. The experiences of the early colonists were full of hard work, hope, and the belief that a better life was possible. Chapter 4: The Road to Independence. As time passed, the colonists began to feel that they were not being treated fairly by the government back in Europe. The British government, which ruled the colonies, made many decisions without asking the people who lived in America. Taxes were raised, and new laws were made that did not always seem fair to the colonists. One of the most famous events in this time was the Boston Tea Party. In this event, colonists protested against a tax on tea by gathering at the port and throwing tea into the water. They wanted to show that they did not agree with the taxes imposed on them. The phrase, "no taxation without representation," became a strong message. It meant that if the colonists were to pay taxes, they should also have a say in how those taxes were used. These growing feelings of anger and injustice led to many meetings and discussions in towns and villages. People from different walks of life, farmers, shopkeepers, and craftsmen, came together to talk about their problems and share their ideas. They began to form groups that worked to stand up for their rights. The ideas of freedom, fairness, and self-government spread quickly among the people. By the mid-1770s, the conflict between the colonists and the British government had grown too strong to ignore. In 1775, fighting began between local militias and British soldiers. This marked the start of the American Revolution. Even though the colonists did not have the same training or resources as the British soldiers, they fought bravely for their freedom. One of the key moments of this period was the writing and signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. This important document declared that the colonies were no longer part of the British Empire and that they would become an independent nation. The words of the Declaration were simple yet powerful. They spoke of rights that every person should have, rights to life, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. The struggle for independence was long and hard. Many people lost their lives fighting for the ideas they believed in, but in the end, the colonists won their freedom. In 1783, the war ended with the signing of a peace treaty that recognized the United States as an independent nation. This victory was a turning point in history and set the stage for a new chapter in the story of America. Chapter 5: The Birth of a New Nation. With independence won, the people of America faced a new challenge: building a nation that could stand on its own. They had to create a government that was fair and that would protect the rights of all its citizens. In the early days, the United States used a document called the Articles of Confederation to try and run the country. However, the Articles did not work well because they gave too little power to the national government. In 1787, leaders from many states met in Philadelphia to create a new plan for governing the country. They worked hard to write a new document, which became the United States Constitution. The Constitution was a set of rules that outlined how the new government would work. It divided power among three branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. This system was designed to make sure that no one part of the government would become too powerful. Soon after the Constitution was written, a set of amendments called the Bill of Rights was added. These first 10 amendments guaranteed simple but important rights for every citizen. They promised freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to a fair trial, and many other basic rights. These ideas were easy to understand and were meant to protect the people from unfair treatment. The process of forming a new government was not easy. There were many debates about how power should be shared between the states and the national government. However, the leaders of the new nation worked together to find a solution that would allow the country to grow and prosper. The result was a system of government that was based on simple ideas of fairness, liberty, and respect for every individual. The birth of the United States was a moment of great hope. The ideas written in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights became the foundation for a nation that would value freedom and work hard to protect the rights of its people. This new way of governing showed that ordinary people could create a government that served them, and that the simple ideas of fairness and justice could change the world. Chapter 6: Expansion and the Growth of a Nation. After the new nation was formed, the United States began to grow. Many people saw America as a land of new opportunities, where hard work could lead to a better life. The country started to expand its borders as more and more people moved to new areas in search of land and freedom. This period of expansion is known as westward expansion. Settlers moved from the original colonies along the East Coast to the vast lands in the West. They traveled in groups and faced many challenges along the way. The journey was long and sometimes dangerous. Many settlers had to cross rough lands and harsh weather before they could start new lives on the open frontier. As new areas were settled, the nation began to see changes in its society and its economy. Farms grew larger, and new towns were built. With the growth of settlements, new ideas about how to govern these areas were needed. States were formed out of the new territories, and each brought its own culture and traditions into the Union. The expansion of the country was not without its problems. As settlers moved west, they often came into conflict with the native peoples, who had lived on the land for thousands of years. These conflicts were hard and sometimes led to violence. The native peoples were forced to leave their homes and adjust to new ways of life, while the settlers continued to build new communities. At the same time, the nation began to develop economically. New trades and industries started to appear as people worked to turn the land into farms, factories, and railroads. The development of the transportation system, such as roads and rail lines, made it easier for people to move around and for goods to be sold. This period of growth helped the United States become a strong and prosperous country. The ideas of hard work, fairness, and freedom continued to guide the nation. The simple values that had been part of the early days in the colonies remained important. These values helped the country to overcome the challenges of expansion and to build a society that was based on opportunity and respect for every person. Chapter 7: The Age of Industry and Modernization. As the nation grew, America began to change in many ways. The 1800s brought the Industrial Revolution to the United States. This was a time when new machines and new ways of working changed how people lived and worked. Factories were built, and many people moved from farms to towns to work in these new places. The growth of factories meant that people could make goods more quickly and in larger numbers. Simple jobs in small workshops were replaced by work in big factories. The machines were powered by steam and, later, by electricity. With these new tools, the country became a leader in producing goods for both people at home and for trade with other nations. During this time, many new inventions came into being. Simple ideas, like the light bulb and the steam engine, helped make everyday life easier. New ways of communicating and moving goods also changed society. Railroads, and later the automobile, allowed people to travel faster and live in different parts of the country. These changes made America a modern nation. The growth of industry also led to new social changes. Cities began to grow as people moved from the countryside to work in the factories. With more people in one place, communities grew larger and more diverse. Schools, newspapers, and public meetings became more common as people worked together and shared ideas, even though the language used in these places was still simple. The ideas of fairness, hard work, and opportunity continued to guide the nation. This period also brought challenges. Many workers in factories worked long hours for low pay. Simple ideas of fairness led some people to speak out for better conditions, and groups formed to help workers get fair treatment. These struggles helped to shape the ideas of workers' rights that we know today. Even though life was hard for many, the hope for a better future kept people moving forward. The age of industry was a time of great change. The simple principles that had helped form a nation continued to support its growth, and America began to take its place as one of the world's great powers. With each invention and each new idea, the country moved closer to the modern world. Chapter 8. America in the Modern Era. By the early 1900s, the United States had grown into a modern nation with many industries and a diverse population. The simple ideas of freedom and hard work that started the nation were still alive, but new challenges and opportunities appeared as the world changed. The first half of the 20th century saw America take part in two great world wars. The country's involvement in these wars helped to shape its role on the world stage. The people of America worked together at home and on the battlefields to keep their nation free. The wars also led to new technologies and new ways of thinking, although the language and the ideas remained simple. The impact of these events was huge. The wars brought both loss and hope, and they showed that the spirit of the nation could overcome even the darkest times. After World War II, the United States began a period of rapid growth and change. New ideas about freedom, equality, and opportunity emerged as the nation worked to rebuild and grow. The simple values of community and hard work continued to guide the country as it entered a time of prosperity. New businesses were built, schools grew larger, and more people moved to the cities in search of new opportunities. The modern era also brought changes in how people communicated and shared ideas. The spread of television, radio, and later, the internet, made it easier for people to connect with one another. Even though the technology was new and sometimes complex, the simple message of freedom and the importance of working together remained the same. The United States became a place where people from many different backgrounds could come together and share their dreams. During this time, the nation also worked to solve problems from the past. Groups and leaders spoke out for the rights of all people. Simple ideas of fairness and equality led to movements that fought for the rights of workers, women, and people of all races. The country began to see that the promise of freedom must be shared by everyone, and that each person deserved a fair chance to succeed. These struggles helped to bring about changes in the laws and in the hearts of many Americans. The modern era has been one of progress and challenge. The United States has grown into a nation that is both strong and caring. The simple principles of its founding, freedom, fairness, and the right to live a good life, continue to guide the nation today. Even as new ideas and challenges arise, the story of America remains one of hope, hard work, and the belief that a better future is always possible. Chapter 9. Social Changes and New Ideas. As the United States moved into the later parts of the 20th century and the early 21st century, social life began to change in many ways. The simple language of fairness and freedom helped many people to understand that all citizens should be treated with respect. Movements for civil rights, equal opportunities, and social justice grew as more people spoke out for change. These movements were led by ordinary people who believed in the simple idea that everyone deserves respect. They organized marches, held meetings, and spoke on radio and television. Their words were clear and simple, and they touched the hearts of many. The idea that every person is equal became a guiding principle for many laws and changes in society. New ideas about education, health care, and the economy began to take hold. Simple ideas like helping others and working together formed the basis of many programs and policies. People worked to create communities that cared for one another, where children could go to good schools and families could live in safe neighborhoods. These ideas were easy to understand, but had a big impact on the lives of millions. At the same time, technology and the way people lived their daily lives continued to change. The invention of the computer, the rise of the internet, and the growth of social media created new ways for people to learn and share ideas. Even though these changes sometimes brought challenges, the simple language of fairness and the belief in opportunity helped guide the way forward. People learned that new tools could be used to improve life and to bring communities closer together. This period of social change was not always easy. There were disagreements and challenges, and sometimes the simple ideas of fairness were hard to achieve. However, the spirit of the nation, built on the belief in freedom and equality, helped people to work through these problems. The lessons learned during this time continue to shape the ideas and values of modern America. Chapter 10. Challenges and Hope for the Future. Today, the United States faces many challenges. The nation is more diverse than ever, and its people come from many different backgrounds and cultures. With this diversity come many ideas and sometimes disagreements about how best to move forward. However, the simple principles that help form America remain strong. The ideas of freedom, fairness, and the opportunity to live a good life for every person. Many people in America still talk about the importance of hard work, community, and respect for others. They believe that by working together, problems can be solved and the nation can grow even stronger. Today, issues like health care, education, and the environment are discussed in simple and clear language. Leaders try to find answers that respect the rights of all people, and communities work together to support one another. There is also a strong hope for the future. New generations are growing up with the same ideas that helped build the nation. Ideas that everyone should be free and that hard work and cooperation can lead to a better life. Schools, community centers, and local governments continue to teach these simple values. The lessons of the past remind everyone that even when times are hard, hope and perseverance can make a big difference. As America moves forward, it continues to honor its past. The history of the nation is full of stories about ordinary people who did extraordinary things. From the native peoples, who first cared for the land, to the brave men and women who fought for independence, every chapter of American history is a lesson in the power of simple ideas. These ideas have helped to build a nation that stands as a beacon of hope for people around the world. Chapter 11. The Role of Leadership and Unity. One important part of America's history is the role of its leaders. Throughout the years, many leaders have come forward with simple yet powerful ideas that have helped guide the country. Leaders like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and many others have shown that strong, honest leadership can help a nation overcome great challenges. These leaders often spoke in a way that was easy to understand. They believed that every person should have a say in how the country was run, and that the government should work for the people. Their speeches and writings were filled with simple words that talked about freedom, hope, and the importance of working together. This clear language helped ordinary people feel connected to the ideas that were shaping the nation. Unity has been another important idea in American history. The early settlers and the fighters in the American Revolution came together because they shared the same simple values. Even as the country grew and became more complex, the idea of unity stayed strong. People learned that by standing together, they could overcome problems that might seem too big for one person to handle alone. The lessons of leadership and unity are still important today. In times of trouble or uncertainty, many Americans look to these simple ideas to guide them. They believe that by working together and listening to leaders who speak clearly, the nation can continue to move forward with strength and hope. Chapter 12. A Legacy of Learning and Change. The formation and development of the United States is not just a story about battles and treaties. It is also a story about learning and change. From the early days of the native peoples to the modern era, the nation has always been a place where ideas grow and change. People in America have learned that simple ideas like fairness, hard work, and respect can bring about great change. These lessons were passed down from generation to generation. In schools, children learn the history of their country in simple language, and they are taught that every person can make a difference. This legacy of learning has helped America to change and grow over time. Many changes have come about because ordinary people decided that things should be better. They spoke out when they saw unfairness and worked together to build a better future. Whether it was fighting for independence, building a new government, or pushing for social change. The people of America have always used simple ideas to guide their actions. Today, the legacy of the nation's history continues. The lessons of the past remind everyone that no matter how big a challenge may seem, simple ideas and strong values can lead to lasting change. This legacy of learning and change is a source of strength and hope for the future of America. Chapter 13. Reflections on a Long Journey. Looking back at the long history of the United States, one sees a journey filled with struggle, hope, and progress. The early native peoples cared for the land with wisdom and respect. The European explorers opened a new chapter by bringing different ideas and ways of life. The colonists built new communities and fought for a chance to govern themselves. And finally, a new nation was born, a nation that grew and changed through the hard work of many people. Throughout this long journey, simple ideas were at the heart of America's development. The ideas of freedom, fairness, and the chance to work hard and succeed are easy to understand. They are ideas that anyone can share, no matter where they come from or how simple their language may be. These ideas have helped the nation to overcome great challenges. They have led to the creation of a government that respects every person and has allowed the country to grow into one of the most influential nations in the world. Even in modern times, when technology and society have become more complex, the basic ideas that help form America still guide its future. Many Americans today look back at this long journey with pride. They see how the struggles of the past have led to the freedoms they enjoy today. They also understand that the simple values of community, hard work, and respect for one another are the key to a better future. The story of America is one that teaches us that, no matter how difficult the road may be, hope and unity can help us overcome any obstacle. As we reflect on the past, we also look ahead. The challenges of the modern world are many. but the simple ideas that helped build the United States still offer guidance. Every new generation is given the chance to add to the story, to build on the lessons learned, and to help the nation grow in new and positive ways. Conclusion. The history of the formation and development of the United States is a long and inspiring tale. It begins with the native peoples, who cared for the land and lived in harmony with nature. It continues with the arrival of explorers and settlers, who came from Europe with dreams of a better life. The struggles for independence and the building of a new government were guided by simple ideas of fairness, freedom, and the right of every person to live with dignity. As the nation grew, it faced many challenges, from conflicts with native peoples to the hardships of building a new economy. From wars that tested its strength to social changes that demanded a fair chance for everyone. Yet, through it all, the basic values of hard work, unity, and respect for one another remain strong. These simple ideas help to shape a country that is known around the world for its spirit of innovation, its commitment to freedom, and its ability to overcome even the greatest challenges. Today, the United States stands as a reminder that great change can come from simple ideas. It shows us that a nation built on the principles of freedom and fairness can grow into a leader on the world stage. The story of America is not just about events that happened long ago. It is about the ongoing journey of a people who continue to work for a better future. As you have read this simple history, remember that the story of the United States is a story of hope, struggle, and progress. It is a story that teaches us to value every human life, to care for the land we live on, and to work together for the common good. It is a story that invites each of us to be a part of the journey toward a more fair and just world. May this account of the formation and development of the United States inspire you to appreciate the power of simple ideas, to value the hard work of those who came before, and to work toward a future where the promise of freedom and opportunity is real for everyone. Thank you for watching.